Welcome back to my office here at Christ the Redeemer. This is Father Mark answering questions for you that came from our small group conversation, came from your heart as we gathered together on January the 9th at Cypress Columns for our parish implementation team, kind of beginning of the year celebration and our end of the year report from 2017. The questions in this video pertain to the dynamics of implementation teams themselves. And as we simply look at your questions that you submitted, we see some themes that arise, and we would like to group our responses to you this morning within three themes with the implementation teams themselves. The first is in regards to commitment, timeline. The second is in regards to resources to help you. And the third is in regards to the dynamics of the teams themselves. Let's look at those three things together very quickly. First, commitment. How much longer are implementation teams going to be together? How long is your commitment? Well, to answer that question very specifically, we would imagine that by the summer of 2019, there will be a natural transition within parishes regarding strategic planning from the planning to the implementing of the plan. And as that transition naturally unfolds, that seems like it is a natural timeline for our volunteers to listen to the Lord and ask if they are continuing to serve the parish in that regard. So we think that by the summer of 2019, there'll be a natural transition for our parish implementation teams. Let me tell you how we got there to that date on the calendar. Let me just remind you. 2018 is divided into three movements of the story. From now until the summer, we want to continue to form you, help you feel more confident, give you the resources that you need to succeed. That takes us into the summer. And in the summer, we want to host listening sessions to listen to the pulse of the parish, to see how your parish is doing. And then based off of what we hear from the parishioners, identify the most important priorities for your parish, and then put pen to paper in the fall of 2018 and identify ways that we can help your parish succeed within those priorities. That takes us into the early months of 2019, where we identify what we need to succeed. What are the things that we need to bring our dreams, our goals from 2018 to fulfillment? And as we then reconcile what we need and what we want to do together, that's going to land somewhere in the time frame of April, May, or early summer of 2019. We are respecting what God's doing in your parish. Every parish is going to go through the process a little differently, but we would expect that in the summer of 2019, there's a natural transition. Second set of questions is in regards to resources, specifically ways that we can help you feel more confident with the formation life cycle and discernment. And the answer to all of those questions is yes, yes, yes. We are developing resources. In fact, we have special videos like this one that are specifically designed to help you and your parish understand the formation life cycle and discernment. We're also going to have special events. Be on the lookout on the calendar where we can pray together and walk you through discernment physically, as well as some in-house Q&A with the formation life cycle. So be on the lookout on our website for those additional opportunities that are optional, but there to help you. And then finally, let's talk about the dynamics of the teams themselves. I have a great friend of mine who turned me on to a book called Simple Church. And in that book, there's a great quote that says that ministry in the church will always be messy and difficult because people are messy and difficult. Wherever people are, wherever you and I are, we are going to bring our imperfections into the church. And sometimes the interpersonal dynamics or the team dynamics can be difficult. So if your team is flourishing right now, you've gelled, you're having great meetings and everybody gets along, awesome, praise God. And if your team is struggling a bit, maybe you feel, to use the direct language of the questions that were given to us, if you feel that someone on your team is not on board or is kind of is really stifling the process, then that's okay. That's where we are, and we're going to work through this together. What do you do if your team hasn't gelled, or what do you do if you have someone on the team who's kind of hindering the process? I want to encourage you around communication in three regards. Number one, to the Lord. There's a difference between us talking to ourselves, right, and us talking to God. It's okay for anything to pop up in our heart, questions or emotions. The question is not what pops up in our heart. The question is, where do we take it? And it's important for us to take everything that is in our heart to the Lord. Not only do we want to pray ourselves, asking for wisdom, discerning ourselves on what to do, but I can't encourage you enough around intercession. Are we praying for each other in between the meetings by name, and specifically perhaps with intentions that can help us continue to flourish as a team? Sometimes it's just the invitation to pray for each other and ask God to work in our lives in between the meetings. And I would also ask us, those of us who are struggling, how well are we praying during the meetings themselves? Not just the opening prayer and the closing prayer, but during the meetings. Are we praying? Are we discerning? And are we sharing what God has put in our hearts? Now, perhaps that's where the block is. Perhaps that's where the dynamic that the questions are coming from. But I just wanted to at least mention that as an introduction. So can't encourage you enough to communicate to the Lord. Number two, most importantly, talk to your pastor and to your liaison. We are here to help you, and we can't help you unless we know how to help you. So we want to encourage you to talk to your liaison about what you see. Maybe they see the same thing. Maybe they've already talked to the pastor. Maybe a plan's already in motion. Or perhaps they don't see it. Maybe they don't have the experience that you do. Talk to your liaison. Your liaison is there to help you and your team flourish. Can't encourage you enough to communicate well. But I also want to encourage us to take the communication to that way. There's order in order. So instead of getting drawn into a pessimism or maybe even a gossip within the team about another team member, we sacrifice that temptation and we go straight to God, asking God to be with us as we communicate well with our liaison. And then finally, want to encourage us to be discerning. It's important for us to know that God has called all of us who are on the team to the team, but now is a time to ask God all over again, is he calling us to continue? Some of us were called to start the process. Some of us were called to strategic planning, and perhaps there was an aspect of implementation down the road, like adult formation or youth formation or major life moments, that really piqued our curiosity, and that's why we joined the implementation team. But just because we started the process does not necessarily mean that God is calling us at this stage to see the process through. And I want to encourage every team member to have the courage to ask God where the call is. But specifically, to those of us who might be significantly struggling, it doesn't feel like the language is your language. It doesn't feel like the process is unfolding the way you thought. I would encourage you as a team member to talk to your liaison, to talk to your pastor. Some of our parish implementation teams are called at this stage of the process not only to individual discernment, but to more communal discernment, such as is your team too small or is your team too big? That sweet spot right in the middle, which is going to be different for every parish, you'll know that perhaps some of the things that are preventing your team from flourishing might simply be the size, either be too small or maybe even too big. And then finally, it might be as simple as us having some very direct conversations with people. I believe that the role of a pastor is to pastor. And as people are messing difficult, sometimes it's important for us as pastors to have direct conversations with parishioners so that with the standard of virtue that's always in front of us, that we are called to Christian charity as well as to Christian creativity together. Wherever your team is, that's okay. Just want to encourage you to talk to your liaison, pray for each other, believe in the goodness in each other, and have the courage to be discerning about who is supposed to continue on your team as you move forward in the process. It's okay at this stage of the process to say yes. It's okay in this process to say no. And it's okay at this stage of the process to have some very direct conversations with individuals to see if they need to be invited into other aspects of parish ministry. Until we see you again, God bless. Have a great Lent. Hope this video was helpful. If you have any other questions, make sure you send those to us via email. And until we see you, God bless you.